Hey, folks, welcome to Draft Talk on Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm Alan Saunders, joined as always by Nick Farabaugh. It is Monday, March 28th, and yesterday, Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin both spoke to reporters at the NFL owners' meetings in Florida. Tomlin is there, Colbert is not, and we'll get into why in a little bit. But I think today we're just mostly going to react to what the Steelers' top brass had to say yesterday. There was a lot of it. We wrote about 7 or 8 stories at the site at SteelersNow.com, so make sure you go check those out so you're up to date on everything that's going on with the team. As always, nothing real groundbreaking to me, but just another affirmation that they're very seriously considering quarterback and not really that seriously considering anything else, right? I mean, that's what we've been seeing from their actions, and now their words kind of lined up with it. That to me was the biggest takeaway from yesterday. And Nick, what were you seeing and hearing, and what were your thoughts on their seeming quarterback obsession?
Yeah, I think that they really want to add the quarterback, but I did find I think the way Tomlin kind of answered that question on the YouTube page was fairly interesting as well. I thought he kept that hey, we want a quarterback, but I don't think he actually committed to a first-round quarterback, which was something that I thought was very interesting. You know, he said we'll see how the board falls, which tells me if their quarterback they don't like is not there at 20, they're not going to take the quarterback at 20. So they can wait till the second round, third round, maybe take Carson Strong, or wait later take Caleb Ellaby, and they'd be okay with that, or something like that, right? Or go even later and maybe take Bailey Zappi.
Or they're going to trade up to go get him.
Yeah, right?
You know, that's the other thing there. I agree that I don't think they'll reach, but I'm not sure that I know what they think would be a reach. Like, do you think they think that Matt Corral or Desmond Ridder would be a bad pick at 20? Because I'm not sure.
Well, I think I think you and I are both in agreement. If that Pickett or Willis falls, it's obviously the pick at 20. I think
even if Pickett or Willis gets past 11 or 12, then I would expect them to move up to go get them at that point.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I also gleaned from this, you know, Colbert saying, wow, it's so great we didn't spend any draft capital on trade for like Jimmy G. And that kind of rang the alarm bells to me. That was like, okay, why do you want that? Is it 1 to pick a player, or is it 2 because you want as much capital to trade up? That's something I think to look at, right? Because you don't want to trade away a second round pick for Jimmy G if you're saying trading up 10 spots to go get Malik Willis. So that's also something to take into account here. And that's kind of putting 2 and 2 together a little bit. I thought, though, you know, Ridder and Corral, it's a tough evaluation if they're going to think their reaches. I think there are positions the Steelers are clearly looking into. I think they're looking really heavily into defensive backs. I mean, I kind of noticed this trend. That's that's like the second position. Yeah. If as long as Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt are off the board, I think, other than the Georgia defensive lineman, like that is the position they're going to go. Maybe safety at 20, or you know, if they can't figure out that safety situation before the draft and say, you know, there's been talk recently of Kyle Hamilton maybe dropping down the board. If he somehow falls, they went to go see him. If Stingley falls, if Sauce falls, if one of these guys falls, they're there to take him. If Booth is there, Dax Hill, maybe even Brisker at that point. Like there are guys there like that. They have scouted DBs, so I don't think they're locked into quarterback. I think it's likelier, and I think I'll say this: I think that they consider what they would consider a first-round quarterback worthy of 20 is going to be variable based on, I think, their NFL readiness. And I don't think they care necessarily as much about that. But I think what they do care about is, do you have upside, or do you have that considerably high floor? So I'd say yes to Ridder and probably no to Corral.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Is that I don't really love the idea of Ridder at 20, depending on where the board looks. But I think he can be argued to be a first-round pick. I'm not sure that I can buy that for Corral. I also think I've seen a lot of people talk about trading down. That's true that there are a lot of teams, once you get after the Steelers, that are not going to take a quarterback. However, somebody, all the teams that would be wanting to trade up would be quarterback teams, right? I mean, probably, or something else that the Steelers want. Talked about them liking the corners, or at least looking at the corners and the safeties, but they haven't gone to see very many offensive linemen at all, and they've just straight up skipped wide receiver, especially. I mean, not going to Penn State or Ohio State to me really puts, because of the guy. I mean, Olave and Dawson are sort of good fits for the Steelers, like first and second round picks, and they didn't go see either of them. Obviously, they saw Williams and Mechie at Alabama, but I don't think either of them ran, so I don't even know. They did. Frisman Jackson was there, right, at Alabama?
That's going to be this week, so we'll see.
All right, at Alabama this week. So, but I don't think they're going to run. And then Justin Ross at Clemson they saw, and Pickens at Georgia. That's who.
Yeah, and then they saw Danny Gray. They saw Danny Gray at SMU, and then they saw Christian Watson up at North Dakota State. So they are interested receiver, but it seems like it's day 2, and that
seems like if it's not quarterback, it's defensive line or corner in the first round, based on what they're looking at. But I really do think they're very focused on the cornerback position, maybe even more. Like last year, it was not a secret at all that the Steelers really, really liked Najee Harris. But I feel like they really spread themselves around positionally a lot more last year than they did this year, right? Like they still went and saw a lot of different options, even though they were very obviously focused on Najee Harris. I'm not sure they're as focused on one guy this year, but they seem to be more focused on one position.
Yeah, well, everything is, as you can see, everything is not going over quarterback. They are going to every quarterback's pro day they can, and they're going to see that quarterback regardless of it. They're probably going to go see Bailey Zappi. I mean, they're going to go try and see everyone. They sent Mike Sullivan to Carson Strong's pro day. Obviously, they prefer Pickett because he's going to be the first round option, but Mike Sullivan went to see him. They sent someone to Caleb Ellady's pro day. They sent someone to every single quarterback in this class's pro day.
And it's not just somebody. They're going with 8 people. They're going with Colbert and Hunt and Tomlin and Canada and Sullivan and Art Rooney sometime. I mean, the whole crew.
Like Khan's going along now too. Omar Khan never goes to pro days. So, like they are going with everyone. So I think, quarterback is very real. And I think they're taking this decision process very, very seriously. But I also think what they're trying to do here is, okay, we're going to have our bases covered for everything. We're going to do a correct risk reward type of value system. Is it worth trading him from Malik Willis? Do we believe Desmond Ridder is a good pick at 20? Or the real question is going to be, what's their tier like? Do they think, I think by the interest and kind of consistent interest we've seen going back to Mobile and kind of how they've been scouting these guys, again, we've talked about this. I think their top 2 guys on their board are probably Willis and Pickett. And so I think that those guys, they would pick at 20. And again, maybe they trade up for them. But we don't know enough about Ridder and Howe and Corral and their kind of general interest in that group. I don't know if they're going to be bent to pick them at 20 because, again, I don't know if they think they're franchise quarterbacks. Now, I know Kevin Colbert said he thinks there's multiple starting quarterbacks in this draft and everything, but you can kind of tell when the Steelers love a prospect, right? You can tell they like Kenny Pickett. They like him. I don't know if they love him, but they love Malik Willis.
They love Malik Willis.
They love Malik Willis.
But they loved Justin Fields last year too. That doesn't mean they're going to draft it.
Exactly. They love Justin Fields, but they love Malik Willis. They like Kenny Pickett. But there aren't as many open indicators that they love Matt Corral or they love Desmond Ridder or someone like that. They might like them. But Mike Tomlin doesn't hide his love. And so it's a bit tougher to kind of square that down to me. I don't know what they're going to do at 20, at quarterback. I think Ritter's the third likeliest option. Again, as I said, maybe it hurts Hal that Tomlin's going to be on the competition committee tomorrow. I don't know that he's not going to be there to get eyes on Hal specifically. Matt Rule has to be jumping with elation that he won't have to compete with Mike Tomlin anymore. So I don't know. It's tough. I think if the 2 are gone that we think are gone, Ridder, I think, is a natural pick. But also, the question is going to be, do they think Ritter's good enough there at 20 to warrant that pick?
And I think the other thing that really matters is how the board falls. They love Jordan Davis too, and they're not being shy about that one either, right? So if he's there, I think that changes the math for them a little bit. We'll see if they love these corners or not. I'm not sure. Does a Stingley or a Gardner being there at 20 change their decision? If Ritter's there as well, do they have a preference? I don't know. We'll see. Outside of the quarterbacks in the draft, what were your other big takeaways from what Colbert and Tomlin had to say on Sunday?
I found it interesting that they talked a lot about inside linebackers and the way Tomlin specifically described the inside linebackers in the video. He really liked that group of draft prospects. Tells me they're going to draft an inside linebacker. Now, that's not really a crazy, surprising thing. They sent the house to Georgia Pro Day to see their 3 linebackers. Jerry O was at Penn State Pro Day to see Brandon Smith and Ellis Hobbs. They did a lot of this different kind of chess piecing around last year where they sent Jerry O over the whole darn map to go study linebackers. So this has been like a multi-year thing for them. And I think they like this crop. There's a lot of good players out there that are going to be in this group. Obviously, they went there for Ritter, but at Cincinnati Pro, they got to see Darian Beavers up close and personal. And this was kind of interesting. If you watched Derek Bell's coverage of Cincinnati Pro Day on Twitter, Mike Tomlin essentially did everything but watch Desmond Ritter. I mean, he watched him for a little bit, but everyone else was kind of doing that, and he was kind of roaming around, and he seemed to be very, very intrigued with Darian Beavers. So that kind of was like, okay, don't hide the love too much, Coach Tomlin.
Hey, I would think inside linebacker is a really underrated discussion point for the Steelers this draft, especially since, they got Miles Jack, and some people were like, okay, good, he's good, we're good. But you look at it, and they're not going to take Devin Bush's 5th-year option, I don't believe, which will make him a free agent after this season. That they have Robert Spillane and Marcus Allen are restricted free agents. If they sign their 10-year tenders, they'll be unrestricted free agents after this season. And Jack is only signed for a 2-year deal. So that means you're looking at 2024 0 inside linebackers, basically, as things stand right now. That's absolutely a position where, could they play tomorrow and be representative? Maybe more so than they could at, say, strong safety or slot receiver right now. Yes, but that doesn't mean it's not a future need for this team, and an important one, especially the way NFL offenses have put pressure on that position. I mean, really, it's sad to say, but the Steelers are still hurting from the loss of Ryan Shazier. They've never really been able to replace that coverage ability at inside linebacker since they lost him. They're still looking for that. They thought they had it in Devin Bush, and they don't. And I don't think they're going to. I just think he's a different kind of a player. They still have a big long-term missing piece in that defense that they have not been able to find for a long time.
Yeah, inside linebacker is a big need. And again, you can't really bet on Buddy Johnson being a legit option either. I know they drafted him, but he's not even going to be your Mac. He's going to be your Buck in the future. So he's going to be the more athletic Vince Williams if he pans out, essentially. That's his role. But aside, as you said, they don't really have much outside of Miles Jack. Devin Bush, he could still play like crap next year and get benched again. Who knows? Robert Spillane has been really not great when he's played. He's just a really good special teamer, which you always need. But again, not a guy you ideally start. Marcus Allen, I don't know. Good sub package. I like him as a sub package linebacker more than I like him as a true base linebacker. I still don't know if he can bang down low, if he's actually asked to play in a base 3-4, if he can actually shed a block. I don't know that. Still, he's at linebacker. He's still built like a strong safety, essentially. And so outside of that, who do you have? UG3, like guys that you're not going to play or want to play. So yeah, it's a need. It's a future need. It's a depth need right now too. So if you find the right fit, say a Leo Chenal drops to 52 or 84, Brandon Smith's there at 84. Darian Beavers is there at 52.
And it's a deep inside linebacker class, especially in the second and third round. There's a lot of guys I think can be difference makers at those spots. Asamoah from Oklahoma, and there's a couple more as well where I think there's a lot of good fits there.
Yeah, I think the inside linebacker position is deep this year. And again, there's the 3 Georgia linebackers. There's Nakobe Dean, there's Coy Walker, and there's Channing Tindall. All three of them are going to be top 100 picks. So you have all three of those guys there. I mean, there are a ton of options here for the Steelers to choose from. And so inside linebacker definitely feels like at some point in this draft, it's like going to be the best player available. And it's also a relative need now for depth purposes and in the future for actual starting purposes. And I think that naturally how the board's going to shake out is going to be like, oh boy, this inside linebacker is here at this spot. He's the best player available. We also have a need. We really like this guy. We're going to take it.
Yep, I agree. I thought the other big thing was talking about the strong safety position, sort of openly saying they're going to address that in free agency before they get to the draft, or at least try to. It's really bizarre to me that I'm not sure what's going on here. That they declined the option on Terrell Edmonds. That to me says not interested, but he's still around and seems like he may end up being the best fit. Not quite sure. And Colbert kind of didn't specifically say that, but kind of put some cold water on the Tyrann Mathieu speculation, saying they prefer a guy who's a little bit younger, who's coming off his first contract and not off his, I think that's actually Matthew's third, but he's 29, so about second contract age. And I don't know what you made of that. To me, it seems like they should just hurry up and re-sign Terrell Edmonds, because I don't think he was that. I was pretty good last year, and I think they actually should have taken his option because he played pretty well. But I don't know. I'm not sure what the holdup is there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're doing there. I'm not sure what they're looking for necessarily. There's not a lot of young guys left on the market. I mean, every guy aside from maybe Jabril Peppers outside of Terrell Edmonds is like 28, 29 or going to be 29. Like I know they also said they had interest in DeMonte Casey. He's going to be 29 in June.
Yeah,
like
Peppers will be 27 this year, so he's a little bit younger than the other two guys.
Yeah, so that's like a Miles Jack age range essentially. I think a year older than that, but like outside of that, who were you getting? I mean, someone that maybe stands out to me is Ronnie Harrison, who was with Cleveland last year, started off with Jacksonville. Rodney Harrison's son, perfect strong safety is like a plug and go maybe. That could make sense. He's only 24, so that one makes sense. But outside of that, like who else actually makes sense to you? I mean, looking at the more could make some sense. He's Anthony only 24.
Harris, he's been from Philadelphia, maybe.
Like maybe, but like all these guys.
He's 32.
Yeah,
30,
right.
Also, not 32, but
like they're like the top options are Tyrann Mathieu 29, Landon Collins who's 28, Kareem Jackson's 33, Rodney McLeod's 31, Keanu Neal working back to safety, he's going to be 29, and then you get to guys like Terrell Edmonds. And so I don't know what the Steelers are going to do here. You have Jaquiski Tart, who's also 30. I mean, the all the signs to me from this standpoint, if you're not going to sign Tyrann Mathieu, if you're not going to sign one of these top guys, it all points at the familiarity, the guy who already has chemistry with Minkah Fitzpatrick, the guy who's probably going to be affordable. I don't know why Terrell Edmonds would ask the world of you. If he had a robust, lush market, he would have already been off the board. So what are you really going to pay him? $4 million a year, maybe? I can't see him getting much more now. So I would
have thought he would get a lot more than that, but I don't know. I mean, the safety market was very deep this year, but I mean, a lot of guys have signed. Whitehead has signed, Reed has signed, Xavier Woods signed. There's been a couple more I'm not thinking of too. Marcus Williams, more of a free safety, but there's been lots of guys on the market that I don't know. I think all those guys made. Whitehead was like 7. I think all the rest of those guys were 5 or above. I think 5, 6, 7. I mean, depends on the length of the contract, but anywhere in that range seems reasonable for Edmonds. I mean, just get it done. He's worth it. He's worth that money easily, and they have it as well.
Yeah, I could see I could see the Akella Witherspoon contract, 2 years, $8 million, be reasonable here. 2 years, $10 million, somewhere around there. I don't think they're going to give him more than 2 years, but I think following that same contract pattern where you maybe give him 4 or 5 a year, I think that's the reasonable amount, and I think he's worth that. So you can cut him after 1 year. Say if you draft a safety, if you draft a Brisker, a Hill, whatever, if safety ends up being one of your draft picks because you want to move on for Terrell Edmunds next year, but you have him there as a stable kind of stabilizer this year, and you bring him in, it's good. I think it just makes sense to bring back Terrell Edmunds at this point.
And that's the other thing is that unlike, okay, slot receiver, I guess they have Anthony Miller there, Steven Sims that they could maybe play, right? Or, but there's no, I mean, Miles Killebrew is the only other guy with the position of strong safety on the roster, and he cannot start. Like, there's no chance. Like, they must do something with strong safety between now. I mean, if they had to play a game right now, I guess you'd like playing Trey Norwood out of position, I guess. I don't know. Like, it's pretty dire there. They don't really have another option to do this. And like I said, there were so many free agents. If they didn't want to sign Terrell Edmunds, well, then they should have just signed Jordan Whitehead or whoever, any of those 5 guys have already signed. Like, I don't know. Just it's a position that they need to get something done here.
Yeah, that's going to be the question. And like, they should naturally, that I would think, just bring him back if they're not going to go after Tyrann Mathieu. And again, it sounds like Tyrann Mathieu's taking his time, kind of deciding what he's trying to do. Maybe Mathieu's trying to wait. And this is smart of a veteran like Tyrann Mathieu, who knows he's really good. He's going to wait till after the draft when there are needy teams that 100% need him. And it's going to drive his market up.
It's not a great safety draft class either.
No, it's not. And so you're going to have a team or two that needs a strong safety after the class, and Tyrann Mathieu is going to jump on all that money. And that's what he's waiting for. So the Steelers are really going to have to sweeten that pot to get Mathieu now, I think. I think the Steelers have talked to Tyrann Mathieu. I think that they probably floated an offer out there, but I also think Tyrann Mathieu's probably like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to see if I can get a more lucrative offer, and then if I come back, we can circle back around here. But I think that Terrell Edmunds right now, I think they have to fill this position between now and the draft, because I feel like then you can't necessarily justify going all in on the quarterback if there's going to be a really good safety there, which there could be. Again, a Daxton Hill could easily be a 20, and that's a worthy pick at 20. So what's going to happen there is they're going to have to sign someone. I actually anticipate this maybe not this week, but the week after, when the pro day season kind of calms down a little bit. I think they're going to look pretty hard at the strong safety spot, and they're going to fill it pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree. And that was the other big takeaway for me. A couple others there. I mean, nothing really that jumped off the page. Again, still no news on Stephon Tuitt. As we expected, they're progressing to the second phase of their GM search. So the 16 guys that they've interviewed are the 16 guys, and they'll go forward with second interviews for some. Kevin Colbert's at the North Carolina Pro Day today. It's actually happening right now. Sam Howell's throwing, and we'll probably talk more about that tomorrow, and just about Howell as a prospect, because he's the one quarterback we haven't really dived into yet. Nick, anything else for today?
Not really. I think that it was pretty cut and dry. Some things we already knew. Found some of the comments about Terrell Austin a little interesting, that his influence is going to be felt on this. So when you're talking about safety fits, 2 high shells are going to be a lot more prevalent. That is TA's bread and butter, which makes the Tyrann Mathieu fit even better, by the way. So maybe signs of pointing there. But I don't know. I think that this is going to be an interesting offseason. I think as we continue to watch it unfold, there's going to be a lot to glean from it.
I think so too, and we will be with you for the next month of this offseason here, just about every weekday. Draft Talk on Pittsburgh Sports Live. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you find podcasts. Draft Talk with Alan Saunders and Nick Farabaugh, and of course, make sure you check out all our coverage, SteelersNow.com and all over the Pittsburgh Sports Now network. For Nick, I'm Alan. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.